when foul hunting becomes an art form. What if I told you that the deadliest play in OKC's playbook wasn't a corner three or an alley-oop, but something far subtler, drawing fouls? Shai Gilgeous. Alexander has turned baiting defenders into an art form worthy of a museum display. From the opening tip, he danced around ball screens as if he were auditioning for Swan Lake, slipping past hedges with Eurosteps so smooth defenders looked like they were tripping over their own shoelaces. By the end of the first quarter, he already had a dozen trips to the foul line, enough to build a small cottage out of free throws. And the Wolves were left wondering if they were playing basketball or mopping up after a confetti party. This wasn't random luck or phantom whistles. This was precision warfare. OKC's coaches poured over frame-by-frame footage of a defender's slightest overreaches and taught Shai to exploit them. A shoulder dip here, a wrist flick there, and suddenly every defender within a 5-foot radius was at risk of winding up in foul trouble. It was mesmerizing. Fans on Twitter called it free throw wizardry, while die-hard analytics heads marveled at his 40% free throw rate on drives, compared to the league average of 27%. Think about that. What Shai achieved in the first half was equivalent to trading 2 made baskets for 3 free throws every single trip. That's efficiency on steroids. And the beauty of it was how natural it looked. No flailing or flopping, just impeccable timing and body control. The kind of thing you can only master after thousands of reps in the gym. The moment he sensed the defender's foot twitch, he'd step forward, draw contact, and lean into the fall with the grace of a figure skater. Every whistle confirmed the strategy. Get Shai to the line, get your guys into foul trouble, and let OKC's role players feast on open looks. But that was just the opening gambit. If Minnesota thought they could complain about whistles and adjust on the fly, they were in for a rude awakening. OKC had planned moves 2, 3, even 4 screens ahead, each designed to force a reaction, create an angle, and manufacture contact. And when Shai fattened up the stat sheet with free throws, you better believe every single one of those trips was calculated to shift the game's momentum in subtle yet irretrievable ways. How Minnesota let him dance in the paint. Now, imagine hosting an all-star player who averages 28 points per game and essentially gifting him a red carpet to the rim. That's exactly what we witnessed when Minnesota opted for soft hedges and delayed help on ball screens. Instead of swarming Shai as he came off picks, the Wolves front-guarded, hoping to contain his pull-up game, only to discover that Shai's mid-range floater is just as deadly. Anthony Edwards, notorious for his defensive tenacity, stayed glued to Giannis-like assignments on the weak side, while D'Angelo Russell hovered near the arc, worried more about clutch shooters than closing in. Karl Anthony Towns, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year finalist, camped near the paint rim, too deep to help on the perimeter and too late to contest the floaters that rained down like soft hail. It was a defensive sieve, and Shai danced through the holes with a carefree grin. Frame-by-frame breakdowns show how each screen was set, just enough to push defenders a few inches off their lanes. Then Shai would exploit that gap. First quarter video clips, classic slip screen that ends with a leaner, half-court ball screen that morphs into a spin move, side pick and roll that culminates in a bullet pass to an open shooter. But what really hurt was the aftermath. As defenders reached for air, Shai read their body language and either raised up for a shot or bent his knees to absorb contact. The refs saw defenders' arms dangling into the path. And even if contact was minimal, the whistles kept coming. By halftime, Minnesota had already spent their timeout strategies on how to maybe contest better. Strategies that never materialized. Fans in the arena started chanting, "Let's go Shai," as if the game were a half-court horse. Social media lit up with highlights. Shai Magic, foul fiendry, Timberwolves getting fouled. Even seasoned beat writers threw up their hands. "I've never seen anything like this," one wrote. "He's practically gliding to the line." But blaming the whistle crew only gets you so far. When your defense camps in no man's land, and refuses to apply immediate pressure, you're inviting your worst nightmares. And in this case, that nightmare had Shai's name stitched on it in electric lettering, the one adjustment that silenced the foul line. Or enter the secret Hammond-Powell hack, the hard show blitz. It's a low-key tweak, but when teams borrow it from past series, the payoff can be seismic. In Denver's semis, the Nuggets discovered that having a secondary defender rocket off the screener to meet the ball handler within a second shattered the free throw gravy train. Instead of a full double team that surrenders open shooters, the strong show blitz brings just enough heat to throw off timing. In Game 1 against Minnesota, it was Darius Bazley who sprinted over like a shock trooper, shoulders squared, palms up, forcing Shai to pick his head up earlier than he liked. The result? Shai's free throw rate dropped nearly 40% after the blitz started. Instead of leaning in, he had to decision make in a crowded runway, pass to a rolling big, kick out to the corner, or try an off-balance 18-foot pull-up. None of those options are as efficient as a straight-line drive to the stripe. Suddenly, OKC's flow hiccuped. Role players like Lou Dort and Isaiah Joe, who thrive on incidental offense off Shai's gravity, saw fewer and one opportunities and more contested jumpers. They still made their shots. These are professional sharpshooters after all. But it wasn't the free-flowing rhythm that fueled the first quarter barrage. Minnesota roared behind the bench. Coach Chris Finch pointed emphatically. Teams huddled to emphasize the blitz. And for a stretch, the Wolves looked like the shivering defense of yesteryear. The crowd sensed it too. Gone were the raucous "Let's go Shai" chants, replaced by a tense hush as every roll and pop was met with contested closeness. Yet, even with the adjustment, the game hung in a balance. For every blitz, OKC drew up slip screens, misdirections, and dribble handoffs designed to bait the second defender into over-pursuing. It became a chess match. Blitz would force Shai to pass, or hesitate and invite free throws. Why a zone might be Minnesota's secret weapon zone defense. Some call it archaic, others revolutionary when executed properly. For the Wolves, the hybrid matchup zone could be the kryptonite to OKC's man-to-man wizardry. Picture this: 2 guards stationed at the top of the key, mirroring the ball's every twitch, while 3 bigs anchor the paint like guardians of an impenetrable temple. On a ball screen, the top guard sinks into the lane, the wing slides over to contain the roll, and a third defender creeps up as a funnel. Suddenly, Shai encounters a wall wherever he turns. Not just one defender, but 3 converging angles designed to cut off his driving lane. Look back at Minnesota's tactical masterclass against Denver last postseason. In the fourth quarter, they threw a 2-3 zone at Nikola Jokic and bottled him up for 3 straight possessions, forcing 1 miss, 2 turnovers, and a flurry of low-percentage jumpers. The Nuggets, starved of their primary creator, had to scramble for secondary offense and paid the price. The Wolves could replicate that blueprint here. With proper communication on rotation, any slip or delayed closeout becomes a passing lane for the shooter rather than room for a dunk. And let's not forget the psychological effect. Seeing a shifting mosaic of defenders can confuse even the savviest ball handler. Plus, statistical models back it up. Teams facing zones shoot about 30% on pull-up jumpers versus 50% on contested floaters in man. Those 20 percentage points add up quickly over 20 to 25 possessions. It's a risk. You'll lose the one-on-one pressure. But against a team built on isolation wizardry, it might just be the risk worth taking. Coaching criminality. Where Finch missed the mark. Now, here's where the blame game gets ugly. Was it the refs, the players, or the playbook itself? Chris Finch, acclaimed for scheming past Denver's juggernaut, appeared to hit the snooze button in Game 1. No blitz on ball screens, 0 zone packages, and rotations that looked like they were happening in slow motion. Jaden McDaniels, one of the league's elite perimeter disruptors, spent half his time staring at Shai's jersey instead of slamming into screens. Rudy Gobert, normally a one-man fortress protecting the rim, floated so deep on weak side help that his presence might as well have been invisible. Meanwhile, the bench looked dazed. When Shai forced a double and kicked out, no one stepped up confidently. Guys froze on catch and shoots, gym rat shooters hesitated, and by the time they decided to contest, the ball was already through the net. Post-game, pundits grilled Finch. Where were the wrinkles? Why stick to man-to-man when it's failing? Is your team actually prepared? In a series defined by chess moves, the Wolves blundered out of the gate, sacrificing initiative and ceding control. Finch's fingerprint was all over the film. A stubborn insistence on a defense that worked in March but clearly wasn't suited for OKC's unique challenges. Instead of adapting, the Wolves pressed play on the same old strategy. An almost criminal lack of imagination at the highest level, controversy on the court. Did the whistle favor OKC? And then there was the noise. Phantom whistles, phantom fouls, phantom everything. Key non-calls on blatant swings of the elbow, or when Minnesota scratched back, marginal calls on Shai when he subtly initiated contact. Fans exploded online with hashtag Whistlegate, blaming league bias, narrative building, and even conspiracy theories about the NBA grooming its next MVP star. One former ref analyst muttered on a post-game show, "The whistle consistency was abysmal." It's hard to coach your guys when you don't know whether the league wants you to play defense. But let's be clear, whether the whistle was tight or loose, Minnesota's lack of sustained pressure was the root problem. Hesitation became the cardinal sin. Hesitate by a fraction of a second, and you invite an easy foul. Hesitate by a fraction more, and you concede an uncontested layup on the next possession. The mental toll of inconsistent reffing was real. Players second-guessed their splits and stances as if defusing a bomb. Yet, at the end of the day, losing by 26 isn't solely the ref's fault. It's the sum of strategic missteps multiplied by missed rotations and self-inflicted wounds. What to watch in Game 2 and beyond. Tomorrow night promises a seismic shift. Will Minnesota blitz on every pick and roll, daring OKC to punish them from deep? Can Finch dig deep into his tactical bag, bringing out zone traps, box and ones, even full court presses to keep Shai off balance? Watch the early possessions. If the Wolves don't contest the first 5 screens with urgency, you'll know their adjustments aren't serious. Keep an eye on Anthony Edwards. Will he shadow Shai full court as a statement of intent? And check the 8-second mark on every possession. A rushed entry pass might tip you off to their desperation or discipline. On the flip side, OKC has counters of their own. Slip screens to bait overzealous hedges, staggered pick and rolls to stretch the help defense thin, and dribble handoffs to disguise who's getting the ball. They'll also test Minnesota's shooters. If the Wolves overcommit to Shai, look for corner threes from Dort, Joe, and even Giddey. That's the yin and yang of adjustments. Try to stop one threat, and you open another. Statistically speaking, if Minnesota can hold Shai under 25 free throw attempts and force OKC into catch and shoot situations, 95% of those are contested. They stand a real shot at cutting the deficit. Conversely, if they revert to passive hedges and late rotations, expect another lopsided affair. So here's the million-dollar question. Could Minnesota's aggressive adjustments backfire, handing OKC's shooters the keys to the kingdom? Or will finally bottling up Shai unlock a defensive resurgence that flips this series on its head? Drop your predictions in the comments below, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell, because Game 2 isn't just a rematch, it's a tactical war, and no one wants to be left watching from the sidelines.